interfaces in the last class. I took this example. In the end, I told you how interfaces can be used in Selenium. Right. So if you have to open multiple browsers, right, browser of your choice, fine, you can use the interface and you can open it. Okay, right. So any questions with that? Okay. Now I will, if you have any questions, you can ask me. I'll start with the new class today. I'll start with the day 4. Fine. Now in day 2 we studied the concepts of object-oriented programming. Fine. I talked about how to open up various drivers, right, like Firefox driver and all. I talked about them. I talked about object creation, right, what objects are, what they meant. In day 3, I talked about interfaces, right. I told you WebDriver is, I told you the concept of interface, and then I told you that basically WebDriver is also an interface, fine. And it's an interface which all the driver classes they are implementing. Fine. I also talked about the advantages of using the interface. That is, you could use more than one class with the same method, right? And I talked about, like I told a few minutes back, I talked about opening browser of your choice and working with it, right? Now in day 4 we will start with the concept of constructors first. Okay, we will start with the concept of constructors in day 4. What I'll do is I'll create a new class, right, and I'll call this class as say car, right. So this is the car class, and car class, say suppose, has some properties like string, name of the class, and say int price of the class. Okay, and suppose I make another class, right, and I call that class client. Fine. Now over here I create the object. In day 2 I talked about creating objects, right? I create the object of car class. I write car C equals to, say, car C1 equals to new car, right. Then I create another object. I write over here car C2 equals to new car. Fine. I initialize the objects. I write C1 dot name is, say, Honda, and C1 dot price is some price. Okay. Similarly, C2 dot name is, say, BMW. Alright. C2 dot price is some price. Okay. Now the problem out here is that I have to initialize each and every property of the object separately, which is a tedious task. Suppose, like, this is the car class, this has got just 2 properties. Had there been like 10 more properties over here, sorry, yeah, had there been 10 more properties over here, then you would had gone for a toss, like you would have got confused at what to do. Okay, because you had to initialize the 10 properties for every object you create separately. Fine. So I have to initialize each and every object individually, right? Okay. To prevent this issue, that is, you have to initialize all the properties individually after creating every object, right? We use the concept of constructor. Okay. So what is a constructor? A constructor is something which has the name same as the class name and it initializes the object. Okay, the basic thing is constructor helps you to initialize the properties of the object on the fly, right? For example, I'll make a constructor over here known as public this is the constructor of the car class. The name of the constructor has to be same as the name of the class. Okay, and there should be no return type. It's not a function, it's a constructor. Inside it, I will just write over here inside constructor. Okay, so when I run this program client.java, you will see that inside constructor will be printed 2 times whenever you write new car. Okay, whenever you create the object of the car class, right, you actually call that constructor. This constructor is called whenever you create the object of the car class. Alright, if I just create a new hanging object just by writing new car, now the constructor will be called 3 times. Okay, right, fine. So as I said that whenever you create the object of the car class, the constructor is called. Fine. That means inside the constructor you can do something to initiate the object as well. Okay. Now this constructor is known as default constructor. Okay. Technically this constructor is known as default constructor. Right. You can make another constructor like public car. In this I will pass over the name of the car. Okay, when you call the constructor, in this constructor you will pass over the name of the car. So you will write something like this: car C3 equals to new car, and on the fly you will pass over the name of the car. For example, Ferrari. Okay. You cannot hear me. So I create the object of the car class like this, new car, and I pass over Ferrari. So this string will be passed over inside this constructor. Okay, and inside this constructor you can write name equals to n. So automatically the name of the car class will become equals to Ferrari, right? Over here, if I print C3 dot name, right? If I run this, it will print inside constructor 3 times, and then it will print Ferrari. Okay, so what will happen is that, fine, what will happen is that the control will go inside this particular constructor, fine, and the name gets initialized. But if I print the value of, say, price, fine, if I run this, it will print 0 because price has not been initialized. Okay, so probably if I want, I can make a new constructor, public car, in which I pass over the name and price. So you initialize the name and price inside the constructor. Okay, so you see the name is same, but the number of parameters which I am passing over inside the constructor, they are varying. Okay, so this concept is also known as, technically this is known as overloading. Okay, you keep the name of the function same, but the number of parameters you pass over, not the name of the function, sorry, name of the constructor same, but the number of parameters you pass over vary. Okay, so now when I create the class, I create the object, I pass over the name and I pass over the price as well. So what will happen on the fly, this object will get initialized, the object will be created and also it will be initialized. I will not have to initialize the object separately over here. Okay, so this concept is basically known as the concept of object overloading, right, or constructor overloading, and this is basically the concept of constructor as well. Right, now where are constructors used, we will look into that now, find how they are used practically. Okay, now if you go into the documentation, if you go to the website, and you go to the download link, fine, you go to Java documentation. Okay, now if you pick up any class, you will find the constructor summary, right. For example, class like this over here, Firefox driver, Firefox driver. Okay, you look at this class, you will have the constructor summary. So these are the various constructors of Firefox driver class. This is the default one which we use, right. There are others as well, we look at them, like for example we look at this one right now, Firefox driver, in which you pass over the object of Firefox profile. Fine. Now people are like, do you guys know about the concept of Firefox profiling? Do you guys know about the concept of Firefox profiling? No. Okay, you don't know? Okay, I'll tell you. Look, Firefox has got a very unique property, right, that you can create multiple profiles of Firefox on your PC, right. For example, give me 1 minute, I'll just install Firefox. I ended up formatting my system. Just 1 minute. Right. So this is the Firefox browser which just got opened. Fine. Now in this Firefox browser, okay, I have this. Suppose this is the bookmarks tab. Fine. I go to the website on google.com. Fine. And after going to this website, what I do is I bookmark this page. Fine. And I call it Google. Okay. Now you will be able to see this inside bookmarks. Okay. You will be able to see this Google inside bookmarks. Okay. Now suppose I go to my code over here and I just write over here new Firefox driver. I initialize the Firefox driver which is there inside Selenium. Obviously I'll have to add the Selenium jar files in the project. So for that I have to go to the properties, Java build path, add jars, so I have added the jar files for Firefox driver. Okay, rather Selenium. So I imported Firefox driver. Right. Now, if you run this program, as I had explained, you'll see a blank Firefox opening up. Right. But the problem is, if you look at this Firefox, if you look at this, say the bookmark section, you will not see Google over here. You will not see the Google bookmark. Rather, whatever settings you do, the Firefox which you installed on your system, okay, if I add more bookmarks to it, if I add some plugins into it, right, none of them will be visible in the Firefox which is opened up by Selenium. Okay, it looks like a plain brand new Firefox opened up. When Selenium opens up the Firefox browser looks like a brand new Firefox which is installed on your machine. There are no plugins, no bookmarks, nothing, none of your settings. Okay, so why does this happen? The answer to this question lies in the concept of Firefox profiling. Okay, so I'll talk about Firefox profiling now. Firefox profiling is like creating multiple instances of Firefox on your machine. Right. Suppose you and say you and your brother, both of you share the same machine. Okay. Now you want that when you open up the browser, you should be looking at your settings in Firefox, and your brother wants that when he opens up the Firefox, okay, he should be seeing his set of settings and his set of bookmarks in the Firefox. Okay, so you guys can create two different profiles of Firefox on your machine, one for you and one for your brother. Okay, how do you do that? I'll just tell you. Fine. Yes, with the same login. Yes, Rama, with the same login. Okay, so first of all, to do this you have to close Firefox from File Exit menu. Okay, so Firefox will go away. Now go to this Windows Run menu and just type over here Firefox firefox.exe, fine, -t profile manager. Okay, make sure you are closing your Firefox from file exit menu, not from the top right menu, the cross icon. You close it from the file exit menu and then give this command and hit enter. Spelling. Right. So you will see this kind of window coming up. Fine. I will give you the command over WebEx as well. This is the command. I am pinging it to everyone on WebEx chat. Okay. So you see this menu coming up over here, Firefox user profile. This is the default profile in which I had made the Google bookmark. Fine. I can create a new profile and I'll call that profile, say I'll call that profile Ashish. Right. So this will be Ashish profile. So when I start it, what will happen is that a different Firefox will open up, and that Firefox will not have, this is the one, yeah, will not have the Google bookmarks and all. It will be just like fresh Firefox on your machine. So you can do your own settings on this Firefox. If you have some proxy settings to be made specifically for some website to be tested, you can do this on this Firefox. Later on, if you want to move back to the default one, you can exit it and again give the command, and you can move back to default one. Right, and what will happen is that this time you will see the original Firefox with the Google bookmark in it. Fine. So this is how you create profiles. Did you get my point? Did you understand me? That what is a Firefox profile and how do you create it? You got it right? Okay. Right. Now when Selenium launches Firefox, when you write new Firefox driver, internally, okay, internally it creates its own profile, okay, and launches Firefox. That profile gets destroyed after the code ends. After the program ends, that profile gets destroyed. Okay, so you can say that whenever Selenium launches Firefox, it creates a local profile, find a temporary one, uses it for the testing purpose, and destroys the profile after your testing is over. Fine. Now you can actually help Selenium open up the profile of your choice. For example, just a minute. For example, this was the profile which we had just created, Ashish, right? Now in this profile I say bookmark the web page yahoo.com. Right. In Ashish profile I have bookmarked the web page yahoo.com, and I want to open the Ashish profile from the code over here. Okay, by writing the code, I want to open that particular profile. Now with this, that profile will not open. Fine. That profile will open like this. You will have to create the object of an inbuilt class known as profiles ini. Okay, Now you have to create the object of the class profiles ini. Now profiles ini is a class which kind of represents all the profiles which are present on your machine. Okay, all the profiles which are present on your machine. Now you will write over here, from all the profiles, get me the profile named as Ashish. It's an inbuilt class, right? Get profile function returns you the object of a class known as Firefox profile. Firefox profile is basically an inbuilt class which denotes Firefox profile on the system. Okay, right. Now all you need to do is that you need to create the object of Firefox driver now. Firefox driver equals to new Firefox driver, and you pass over your profile to it in the constructor. I am calling this particular constructor over here, the constructor of Firefox driver, which takes in the object of Firefox profile. Okay, right? So now that particular profile Ashish will be launched. Fine. When I run this program, you see the browser opens up and you see that Yahoo India is inside it. Fine. So you can open a profile of your choice with the help of Selenium. You will need to do this at times, right? Because while Selenium is running, sometimes you want Selenium to run on a certain proxy. Okay, or when Selenium is running, you have a need that there should be certain add-ons installed inside your Firefox browser when Selenium runs in Firefox. Okay, so these kinds of this technique over there helps you a lot. Fine. There is no such profiling in Chrome or IE, or it's only there in case of Firefox. Okay, so I started with the concept of constructor, right? Okay, there's a question being asked that what do you mean by profiles ini? It's an inbuilt class inside Selenium. It denotes all the profiles which are there on your system. Okay, so from all the profiles you are getting the profile, a particular profile. Okay. Similarly, Firefox profile is also an inbuilt class, right? Later on, we will see using this class we can manipulate any property of Firefox. Okay. In Firefox, if you type about :config, right? About :config. And hit enter, so you will get this screen and you click on the button. I'll be careful, I promise. These are all the Firefox parameters, okay, which govern Firefox. For example, this is a little technical, that where the download location will be, what is the language of the browser, right? What kind of browser it is, what is the version, what is the cache memory of the browser, right? How much memory space can the browser occupy, right? And what are the zoom settings of the browser? All the settings and all which you actually get from the top menu over here, and especially from tool options and all, right? These are the raw settings which you can manipulate manually as well when you type about config in Firefox, right? Later on we'll see using Firefox profile class you can do any of these settings inside Firefox. Okay, fine. This was just a small brief overview. How do you reach that page? Okay, there's a question being asked. How did you open that? I opened that using the line about about:config. Okay, and I'll be careful. Right, so these are the settings. Fine. So you don't need to remember all of them, but depending on your requirement. Okay, right. So, alright. Now moving further, this was about the concept of constructor, Firefox profiling. Fine. I talked about in the last class about the concept of interfaces as well. Now the next thing which we will talk about is the concept of object identification. Fine. About the concept of object identification. Now, what is an object first of all? Okay, if you open up technically in automation as a field, technically everything inside this browser is an object. Rather, the browser is also an object. Okay, this button is an object. Fine. This text field is an object. This link is an object. Everything is basically an object. Okay, right? And in Selenium, there is a second name for object. It is known as web element. In Selenium, an object is also termed as a web element. Don't confuse it with the web element of QTP. QTP is completely different. Selenium is completely different. If you know QTP, that is good, but keep aside the concepts of QTP as of now. Fine. So object is also known as web element in Selenium. Web element or object is the same thing, right? Under the umbrella of web element or object, each and every web component falls. Okay. Right. So just a minute, guys. Yes. Just hold on. Right. Under the umbrella, everything under the umbrella of web element or object, everything resides. Right. Now, how do you identify an object? How do you work with them? Right. For example, I have to click on a link or a button on the website. Right. I have to go there. Okay. The first thing before we do that, okay, you need to enable some plugins into your browsers, Firefox browser, Chrome browser. Right. In Chrome, what happens is that if you right click on any object or any web element or basically any web component, if you right click on it, you get the option inspect element. Okay, so when you click on this, you are able to inspect the source code of the page. Okay, and that element is also highlighted. This is inbuilt inside Chrome. Fine. If I right click on this yellow button over here, or if I right click over here on methods, I get the inspect element option and I can investigate my page. Okay, that element will be highlighted. Right. This is known as Chrome Inspector. Similarly, in IE as well, IE Inspector is there. You hit F12 of your keyboard, F12, and IE Inspector is opened up. Fine. Now, in Firefox, there is like nothing like that. You have to install a plugin. Fine. That plugin is known as Guys, please keep your microphone on mute. Right. This plugin is known as, hold on, Firebug. Okay. You need to install. Many of you might be knowing about this. Firebug for Firefox. You have to install this. Alright. And go to the first link over here. Okay, this is not the one. Okay. Hold on. I'm using a little old version of Firefox. Look, when you work with Selenium, don't use the absolute latest version of Firefox. Use a little old one, and you can install it from here. Make sure you open the website inside Firefox. Right, that only then the plugin will be installed inside Firefox. Right, so you click on install now, and Firebug has been installed. And out here inside Firefox, you will see this icon on the top right. This icon is for Firebug. Okay, you click on this, a window like this will open. Just 1 minute, I'll increase the text size. Right, now if you click on the arrow over here, you see this arrow, mouse sign, second most from the left, right, and you move over the mouse anywhere on the page, it will show you the page source and the corresponding element. For example, if I move my mouse over here on the link, all Firefox extensions, right, it will give you the information about this link in the page source where it lies. Right, now understanding page source is very, very important when you are working with Selenium. This page source, understanding it is very important because Selenium actually works on the page source. Okay, if you are not aware of page source is nothing but HTML language. If you are not aware of HTML language, if you are not so comfortable reading the page source, fine, then I would seriously suggest you that after the class, go to Google and just type HTML tutorial. HTML is the language used to identify, used in the browser, right? You can go to this link and just do with this tutorial for half an hour. Just do first few topics, these ones. Okay, half an hour to 1 hour, you will understand what HTML is. Okay, I'll give you the link on WebEx. Fine. Now I'll also talk about HTML. Fine, I'll also talk about HTML for a little while. Basically, this is the HTML code looks like this. It starts with the HTML tag. There are tags, and ends with an HTML tag. When you close the tag, you put a slash over here. Okay, inside HTML tag, you will see two tags, head and body. Right, head tag basically represents the header information, that what is the meta type, right, and say what is the title of the page is present inside the head tag. You see the title is Firebug, fine, and some other links as well. You don't really have to worry about them. Okay, what you will be dealing with is basically you will be dealing with the body tag. Okay, inside the body tag, you have the complete visible content on the web page. Whatever is the visible content of the web page is present inside the body tag. Right, so whatever starts with a conical bracket is known as a tag. Body is a tag over here. This div is a tag over here. This UL is a tag. Fine, whatever is in blue is the tag. Okay, now some tags have got certain attributes. For example, this is the div tag, and this div tag has got two attributes named as ID and class. Okay, so as what I mean to say is that every tag will have certain set of attributes, like ID and class are attributes over here for div tag, right? This is the anchor tag A, it represents a link, fine. It's got an attribute href which denotes the URL which will open when you click on the link. Alright, this is the UL tag. This has got no attribute. This is a single tag. This is the LI tag. It's got no attribute. Fine. This is the div tag. It's got the ID attribute. Okay. So HTML is nothing, but it is a language in which you have a tag and you have attribute with it. You might or might not have an attribute. Okay, some attributes are mandatory and some attributes are optional. For example, ID attribute is always optional. ID attribute is an attribute which helps you to uniquely identify the object on the page. There should not be, or the developer should be smart enough, there should not be two objects on the page having the same ID. Okay, but ID is not mandatory. You will not find that every tag will have an ID. Fine. For example, this anchor tag has got no ID. Okay, right? But there are certain tags and attributes. There are certain attributes with certain tags which are mandatory. For example, whenever you get the tag A, anchor tag, this tag represents a link. You will always get an attribute known as href, hyperlink href. This attribute is mandatory attribute for every anchor tag A. Okay, or for example, suppose you are hold on. You are on gmail.com. Okay, this is the login page for gmail.com. Right. If I open up Firebug, right, and inspect this email text field, you will see that the tag name is input. Fine. With the text field, you will always find the type attribute. The type attribute will always be there with the text field. If you look at this checkbox over here, this checkbox is also having the tag name as input. The checkboxes also have the tag name input, but in case of checkbox, the type attribute will always be present and it will be equal to checkbox. Okay, if you look at this sign in button over here, this has also got the tag name input. Okay, but the type for a button would always be type equals to submit. The type is again a mandatory attribute. Rest all of the attributes for this button, for example, ID, class, right, all of these are, you can say, optional attributes. They can be present or they cannot be present. So the object is identified with the combination of this, with the combination of mandatory as well as optional attributes. You identify the object on the web page. Fine. Now in Selenium, this is basically known as locator mechanism. Technically, this is known as locator mechanism in Selenium. If you look at the documentation of Selenium, then there is a class known as by. This is the by class. Class by. This class has got all the mechanisms to locate the objects on the web page. Basically, It's the class which helps you to locate elements on the page. It's got various locator strategies. Alright, so these are the various ways in which you can identify the element. There are various functions. For example, there is a function known as ID. Okay, you can identify the object on the page with the help of ID, or you can identify if there is a link, you can identify with the help of link text or partial link text or the name. Sometimes an object has also got a unique name. For example, on Google email, there is an attribute known as name for the text field, or sorry, for the button. The name of the button is sign in. Alright, right, or the tag name. What is the tag name? I just told you that input over here is the tag name. Fine. Or the XPath. Well, XPath is also very important, right? Most of the times we'll end up using XPath to identify the object. If the object has got no unique ID, it's got no unique name, fine, there is no unique attribute for the object, right? You simply go and identify that object with the help of a mechanism known as XPath. Fine. XPath is like, for example, in a city, every house has a house number, right? Every house can be uniquely identified with the help of house number. Fine. Similarly, every object on the page, right? Every element on the page has got a unique XPath. Okay. How to calculate the XPath, what XPath is, how exactly it is made, right? Okay, I will talk about that, but I really need time for that. If I start off with the XPath now, I need time, alright? So I'll end up for today. Okay, you will get the recorded video. I have uploaded the